Something extraordinary just happened in the Senate. Senator Jon Ossoff didn't just question CIA Director John Ratcliffe, he cornered him. In a tense, no-nonsense exchange, Ossoff exposed how a political reporter somehow ended up inside a secure government chat discussing U.S. airstrikes in Yemen. Think about that. A reporter reading classified deliberations about American military operations. Ratcliffe tried to dodge. Ossoff didn't let him. What followed was one of the most uncomfortable, revealing moments we've seen in a national security hearing in years. Let's break it down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for joining us and for your service. Just to make sure I understand some of the basics here. So, Director Ratcliffe, you were a member of the Houthi PC small group signal chain, correct?
I was.
Yeah, and so were the Vice President, the Secretaries of State and Defense, the National Security Advisor, and Ms. Gabbard, correct?
I believe so. I don't have a list of who was invited to be on.
And so was national political reporter Jeffrey Goldberg, correct?
I don't know that.
Yes, you do.
I don't know Jeffrey Goldberg, and I've already testified. I don't know whether or how he was added.
Okay, well, he was a member of the signal chain, and the discussion included the Vice President's private opinion on the wisdom of proposed U.S. strikes in Yemen, correct?
I don't recall.
Vance, quote, "I think we are making a mistake. I am not sure the President is aware of how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There was a strong argument for delaying this a month." You don't recall?
I don't. As you
You don't recall seeing that?
read that, I don't.
It included the private opinions of the Secretary of Defense on the timing of strikes in Yemen, correct?
I don't recall.
Director Ratcliffe, surely you prepared for this hearing today. You were part of a group of principals, senior echelons of the U.S. government, in now a widely publicized breach of sensitive information. You don't recall whether the Vice President opined on the wisdom of the strikes? That's your testimony today under oath?
In that setting, I don't recall.
Here's what Secretary Hegseth said, quote, "Waiting a few weeks or months does not fundamentally change the calculus. Two immediate risks on waiting. One, this leaks and we look indecisive. Two, Israel takes an action first or Gaza ceasefire falls apart and we don't get to start this on our own terms." Your testimony is you don't recall the Secretary of Defense sending that message or reading it?
I recall there being an exchange. I don't recall the specifics as you're reading it.
Well, let's put it this way, Director Ratcliffe, a discussion by senior U.S. officials on the timing and risks of a proposed military campaign and disagreements between the President and the Vice President about U.S. plans and intentions would be of obvious interest to foreign intelligence services, would it not?
Yes.
And they were discussing the timing of sending U.S. air crews into enemy airspace where they faced an air defense threat, correct?
I'm going to, Senator, defer to the other principles that you're referring to about what the meaning and the context of what they were
They're talking about the
auditing.
timing of U.S. airstrikes, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and therefore the timing of sending U.S. air crews into hostile airspace, correct?
Yes.
And therefore the time period during which enemy air defenses could target U.S. air crews flying in enemy airspace, correct?
I don't know that.
You do know that. Let me ask this question, General Hawk. You lead America's signals intelligence collection. Would the private deliberation of foreign senior officials about the wisdom and timing of potential military action be a collection priority for you and the U.S. intelligence community?
Senator, it's our job to do indications and warning for both the plans and intentions of adversary leaders and for military commanders.
And would not information about the timing of airstrikes allow a military to pre-position or cue air defense systems to shoot down enemy aircraft?
I think, Senator, from our perspective, any advance warning is something that we certainly are trying to protect.
Yeah. Director Ratcliffe, this was a huge mistake, correct?
No.
A national political...
Hold on.
No, you
Let me
hold
answer.
on. No, Director
The
Ratcliffe,
reason
I
I
asked you
say
a yes or
no-
no question, and now you hold on. A national political reporter
You can characterize it how you want.
was made privy
The White
to
House has
sensitive
made clear
information about
that there
imminent
was an
military
inadvertent
operations against a
mistake,
foreign terrorist
an inadvertent
organization.
mistake of adding a reporter.
And that wasn't a huge
to
mistake?
Israel.
That wasn't a huge mistake?
Well, I think they characterized
This is
it as
an
a
embarrassment.
mistake.
This is utterly unprofessional. There's been no apology. There has been no recognition of the gravity of this error. And by the way, we will get the full transcript of this chain, and your testimony will be measured carefully against its content. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the witnesses again.
What we just watched was one of the most tense and revealing Senate Intelligence Committee moments we've seen all year. Senator Jon Ossoff of Georgia grilling CIA Director John Ratcliffe over what he calls a huge mistake. And Ossoff's right, because this wasn't some minor slip. This was about a national security breach inside the highest levels of U.S. decision-making, where senior officials, including the Vice President, the Secretaries of State and Defense, and the National Security Advisor, were privately debating U.S. airstrikes in Yemen, and a political reporter somehow got added to the secure signal chat. Let that sink in. A journalist in the middle of a classified discussion about timing, risks, and potential airstrikes. Ossoff opens calm and methodical, confirming one fact after another. He's walking Ratcliffe through the chain. You were on that chat, right? Yes. The Vice President was there? Yes. Secretary of Defense? Yes. And a political reporter, Jeffrey Goldberg, was in the same group? I don't know that. And that's when Ossoff hits him with the classic, devastating follow-up. Yes, you do. This is where the whole hearing flips. Ratcliffe tries to act uncertain, to dodge, to fog things up. But Ossoff's tone says everything. He's not buying the act, and neither should the American people. What Ossoff is highlighting here isn't just an internal mishap. It's about accountability at the top of the U.S. intelligence system. If a political reporter gained access to the Vice President's private deliberations about military action, that's not just unprofessional. That's a breach that foreign intelligence agencies would kill for. Ossoff even spells it out. He asks Ratcliffe directly whether such internal deliberations would be of interest to foreign intelligence services. Ratcliffe reluctantly admits, yes. That's the whole point. If the CIA knows that adversaries like Russia, Iran, or China would consider this a goldmine, how on earth does the director shrug off this incident as if it's just an embarrassment? And then comes the pivotal exchange. Ossoff forces Ratcliffe to acknowledge what was being discussed, the timing of U.S. airstrikes, meaning when American aircrews would enter hostile airspace. Ratcliffe keeps trying to blur the lines, pretending not to recall the specifics, but Ossoff won't let him off. He drills it home. Therefore, the timing of sending U.S. aircrews into hostile airspace, correct? Ratcliffe hesitates. Yes, and therefore the period during which enemy air defenses could target U.S. aircraft, correct? Ratcliffe mutters, I don't know that. And Ossoff fires back. You do know that. It's surgical. Ossoff doesn't yell, he doesn't grandstand. He methodically exposes that the CIA director is dodging questions on something he clearly knows the gravity of. Then he turns to another witness, General Hawk, and confirms that yes, any foreign military that got early notice of airstrike timing could absolutely reposition air defenses to shoot down U.S. planes. That's not theoretical. That's deadly real-world risk. So when Ossoff circles back to Ratcliffe and asks bluntly, this was a huge mistake, correct? Ratcliffe tries to deny it again. Ossoff cuts him off. No, you hold on. A national political reporter was made privy to sensitive information about imminent military operations. That wasn't a huge mistake? That wasn't unprofessional? You can hear the frustration in Ossoff's voice, because this isn't partisan. This is basic national security protocol, violated in plain sight, and Ratcliffe is dodging responsibility. And Ossoff finishes with a devastating closing line. There has been no apology, no recognition of the gravity of this error, and we will get the full transcript, and your testimony will be measured against its content. That's the sound of a lawmaker who means business. This hearing wasn't about scoring political points. It was about exposing the casual mishandling of classified deliberations under Trump-era intelligence leadership, and how that culture of recklessness endangers American lives. Jon Ossoff has built a reputation as one of the Senate's most composed and forensic questioners, the kind who doesn't need to shout to get results. What he showed here is why oversight matters. When the intelligence community fails upward, when top officials refuse to take ownership of dangerous lapses, democracy loses the transparency and professionalism that keep it safe. This wasn't a Democrat versus Republican moment. It was a truth versus evasion moment. And Ossoff showed us that when the facts are on your side, you don't need to play political games. You just need to ask the right questions and refuse to accept "I don't recall" as an answer when national security is on the line. That's what real accountability looks like. And if you care about that, if you want to see more Democrats standing up to the culture of denial and recklessness that's still lingering in our national security apparatus, then keep your eyes on Jon Ossoff and stay tuned to the Blue Brief, because we're not letting the powerful rewrite the record. This is the Blue Brief, focusing on truth for the people. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment with your thoughts below, because your voice is what keeps this movement alive.